So our Nintendo Switch Joy-Con journey continues. Last time around I took a look at the Nixie Hyperion Pro controller, and today we're looking at a very similar set of Joy-Cons, but from a different company called the Mobapad M6s. Now these are again another set of slightly larger Joy-Cons with some extra really nice features, and I've been seeing loads of people post in my comments of my last video saying that I need to try these ones out, so that's what I am doing. These were sent to me by Mobapad, but they're not paying me or anything like that. This is a completely honest review. This is just my thoughts on them and everything, so on and so forth. Now before I go into some of the really cool features and some of the extra things and the extra buttons and all that sort of stuff, we'll just quickly have a look at what's in the box. So firstly, other than the actual two Joy-Cons in the box, you get this little Mobapad box here, and in this box you get a few little extras. Now you can see it here. I've already had a little bit of a play with this, so apologies because it's not currently in the default setup. What you essentially get is you get a replacement D-pad. So if you don't like this sort of rocking mechanism that we have here, what you can do is you can actually just pop that off and you can replace it with this. It only goes on one way, and you just click that in, and then you got an actual D-pad if you prefer that. I actually quite like the little rocker that came pre-installed, so I'm going to stick that back on. Is it that way? There we go. Allows you to quite easily press sort of two of the directions if you're going in a corner. It's really nice. But what you will notice is that on these sort of gates around the joysticks, we have an octagonal gate and a circular gate. Now, actually, when I got these out of the box, they were both circular. So I'm just going to sort of break down what the differences are. Now, if you take the Joy-Con off of the Switch, there's a little tab up here, and these are actually magnetically attached. You can see the little magnets sort of hovering around there. So if I was to just pop this off here, it's just going to pop off. It will take the little dome thing off of there as well, because that's a bit too big. So you can then sort of switch that for the other color, and that gives you a different gate if you have the other sort of circular gate on there, and it just sort of pops on like that magnetically, pops off just as easily. And you can sort of change it up. If you want two purple ones, you can go two purple. If you want two blue, you can go two blue. Or for example, if you want to have the combination the other way around, you can have the combination the other way around. What you can also do is actually you can see these little gates here. If you just give it a little bit of extra force, you can actually pop that little gate out, and you can swap it with one of the gates on the other one. So you could pop the octagonal gate out of that one and swap it over, and then you then have essentially full customization of it if you want to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it back to the way I had it, because that's how I like it. And I'm going to I'll pop this dome one back on, because that's the one I really like. Other than that, the design, I mean, it's pretty much just like a normal Joy-Con in terms of the sort of bits and pieces. You've got the sort of two bumper buttons here, so you can use it like this if you would like to. But then also you have your sort of triggers, bits and bobs. You have a macro button on the back, which we'll get onto later in the video, how all that works. And then it also has turbo features and stuff like that. Again, I'll get onto that slightly later in the video. Now, one thing to bear in mind, compared to sort of other Joy-Cons, if I sliding, let's say I get the normal sort of standard Joy-Cons that came with the Switch, that slides on really sort of really easily. It's ever so slightly loose, ever so slightly, but it slides on really easily. For example, if I do the same with the Hyperion Pro, that is very similar to the actual original. With these ones, it is a much stiffer fit, so it requires a bit more force to sort of get it down, but then it offers a lot less wobble, so it's actually pretty good. Now, ergonomics wise, it is just so much nicer than the normal Nintendo Switch controllers. So holding it like that, where it sort of sticks out a lot more at the sort of base there, it just fills your hand more, and it just allows you to sort of have a much nicer feel of the device. The only thing I would say is that I've said that's probably the most comfortable way for me, but I'm only sort of holding that bit. I guess I have slightly large hands. I don't really know how to describe it. When I'm holding it with the normal Switch controllers, like so, I mean, that, in order to like get to like the buttons down here, you have to sort of come right in. And I mean, let's go that side too. So I'm holding this like a normal Nintendo Switch. If I'm wanting to sort of get to like that, I'm having to like really sort of bend in my thumb like that. It's really not quite comfortable. It's okay for like short gameplays, but it's not amazing, I'll be honest. Now, having the sort of slightly bigger Joy-Cons just allows you to sort of access those a bit better. So that is just a much more comfortable. See how my thumb just isn't as crooked in order to be able to use the stick. It's just so much nicer. And because you have this nice little rocker here, you can actually leave your thumb quite flat and just be able to sort of roll around on the little rocker, which ergonomics wise, it's just so much nicer than normal Joy-Cons. Going back to these joysticks are Hall effect joysticks, which means they are not like the ones that you get here. And these Joy-Cons are plagued with sort of long-standing issues in terms of the joysticks. Basically, there's a very high chance that with these joysticks, eventually you're going to start getting things like drift, where the sort of center of the joystick sort of wears away, and you just find that it's constantly always pulling to one side, which just means when you're playing games, it's just not ideal. Now, with Hall effect joysticks, you get a lot less actual physical parts and uses magnets, which is much better. It just allows you to avoid problems like drift for considerably longer. So they're much more durable, and they actually feel much more better to use. To find out with these joysticks, it takes just the tiniest little bit of movement to be able to actually make a difference and actually see what's going on. And it's just the tracking of it is just very accurate. So you can really sort of get there. And even with these sort of gates in there, so you see that gate, I'm still reaching and actuating the farthest thing. The gate's not stopping me doing that. But yeah, it's just a very, very sort of really good high quality joystick, and you get that on both sides. Now if I compare that to the normal one, I actually have to push that just slightly further. So it's like pushing. So I'm putting pressure, and then it moves. So, and it's just not quite. So you see, it just doesn't feel quite as precise and smooth when I'm sort of moving it around. It's sort of jumping about just that little bit more. So it's just not as accurate. Honestly, the thumbsticks also have these sort of friction ring. It's like a little metal ring that goes around the thumbstick, and you can use that to sort of make that much smoother. And do these thumbsticks pop off? Yeah, so the thumbsticks also pop off, so you can sort of see that sort of little friction ring on there, like so. Let me just sort of stick this back on. There we go. Now the grips, I quite like the grips. Actually, they're probably a bit more grippier than the normal thumbsticks. They're a bit of a smoother plastic than this one, being quite a rubbery one. However, it's quite a small surface area there, which means it allows you quite a lot of grip, and then there's this textured outer ring on the thumbstick as well, which is really nice. Now, I've mentioned how much I like the D-pad, and I do really like the D-pad and the fact that it rocks. All of the buttons, you might hear this if I sort of bring this a bit closer. In fact, I'm going to lock that just so we don't do that. So all these buttons here, they're all sort of like mouse clicks, mechanical buttons. So instead of like on the normal Joy-Cons where you press it, it's sort of you're actuating a button like so. Or even on the Nixie, like so. These ones are much more like mouse clicks, which means they just feel. I mean, some people like them more. I don't really notice a difference. The only thing I do notice is I hear myself pressing them more. So if I'm playing with a lower volume and I'm just trying not to make a big lot of noise, the pressing of the buttons is very loud. It's a little bit more satisfying, I guess, and you know exactly when you've actually actuated the button because there's a very obvious click, but it is making noise. So if you don't like the noise, then it's not ideal. But that's the same with both triggers, all of the buttons on there, buttons over here. It just doesn't happen with this sort of plus minus or the home buttons at the bottom here. Speaking of those, we do actually have a home button and a screenshot button, both of which will actually wake the Nintendo Switch. So all of that is fully supported. You're not losing any sort of functionality there either. In terms of charging has to happen on the Switch. So Switch with it on the dock, that will charge your controllers. There's no other way of charging them unless you have some sort of charging adapter where you slide them into it and it charges that way. So no USB-C, none of that. It's literally just charging it like you would charge one of these. Now battery life is about 14 hours, which should be more than enough for most people. Now, in terms of actual features that a normal joystick has, this has everything that you would get on it. It has motion controls, it has obviously all the normal buttons, it even has NFC. I'm pretty sure the NFC sort of actuation zone is about here on the controller, just above the thumbstick or the D-pad on either side. So if you're using Amiibos, that works perfectly fine. But alongside those features, you also get some extra features, some slightly more pro ones. First of all, they both have rumble, so it's not HD rumble. There is another version of these controllers that has HD rumble. That is the HD version of these, and it has, you guessed it, HD rumble. These ones don't have that. So we'll jump into Super Smash Brothers, and let's have a look at this one. So the first thing we're going to look at will be the turbo. So turbo, I'll just do for normal hit. So then if I do a normal hit, look, it's just constantly pressing it over and over again. So I'm not having to do anything, and he's just like going absolutely ham. Look at this. Oh, he's grabbed me. Look, he's still going. You can't get anywhere near me. And then I just press the button again and it'll stop. Next cool thing you can do is macro. So what you need to do in order to do macros, so you can basically just record an alternative button and you can map it to the back. Now, if you just do one button, it's just a true version of that button. For example, in Tears of the Kingdom, in order for me to run around, I would have to hold down the B button. So if I wanted to change the camera, which is an issue, I'd actually have to move this stick to change the camera, but then also have to be holding that button, which is quite difficult. But if I held down that macro button at the back and mapped it to that one, it worked perfectly fine, and I could be able to swap that really easily. Now, the other thing you can do is you can do some sort of like combo, and you can record it in a particular order. So for example, we've just got Ryu, so let's fight with him versus Captain Falcon. So what I need to do, so let's say for example I wanted to record a macro, I'd hold this button down here for 3 seconds until the light's on, and then I do duck, hit, so hit, down, up, and then press the macro button. Now, if I press that macro button, it's going to record that, and it's going to do it in exactly the same way. So look, it's just going through and doing that combo that I've recorded. Now, what are my thoughts about the Mobapad M6s? Now, honestly, I think they are just a really good alternative to the Joycons. In fact, I would use them over the Joycons every single time. The only thing I'm not massively keen on, I think they're actually a bit loud. A lot of people go on about how they prefer the fact that they're mechanical buttons, and I get that. I do like mechanical buttons, but if you're playing quietly, all the clicking and then definitely the really loud vibrating, that's a little bit disappointing for me. I find the sort of rumble is just a bit too loud. It'd be interesting to see what it's like on the HD version with the HD rumble, whether that sort of makes a difference to that. In terms of design, I do really like the design. Again, I think the lack of color options sort of does bother me. So the fact that you can only sort of get the blue, the sort of light blue and purple, I would have liked it if you could change it. I know you can sort of swap out the faceplates, or you could potentially even paint the faceplates and do sort of something creative with them. But the fact that you're sort of only sort of left with these sort of combos of these colours, and even if you swap the faceplates, you still have the sort of the purple base, for example. So it would be nice to see some other options available for that. I know with the HD ones you have them in white, which is a bit of a cleaner look, so maybe that should be the way that I would go if I was going to get some of these. But I do really like them. I love the extra functionality that you get. I mean, NFC doesn't really bother me because I'm not using amiibos, but if you are, then that's obviously a very good point. I do like the fact that as well, when you actually want to stand this up, unlike something on the Nixies, when you want to stand this up, you have to sort of, you can actually use that stand there too, even with the controllers attached. Now, I might do a comparison video between the M6s and the Nixie Hyperion Pros if you want to see that. Generally, these do look and feel like really nice controllers, but considering everyone in my comments was raving about these over the Nixies, I honestly think it's probably a lot closer than you'd think. Now, I'm not going to talk about price, primarily because it fluctuates so much and they change all the time. I will put links down in the description, so if you want to find out how much these cost, where you can get them, there are links down in the description so you can do that. But other than that, guys, that is going to be all from me today. Thank you very much for joining me and having a look at this. Thank you for Mobapad for sending these over. And if there's anything else you want me to take a look at, feel free to stick it in the comments. I'll see if I can get my hands on it. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Woo!